Jackson trying to escape and run for it, and he's got it and more. Lamar Jackson down the sideline. Will they give it to him? They will. Touchdown, Baltimore.
And with 1:17 left to play on Wild Card Weekend, the Hayes in the barn.
Oh my God! I wish you guys could. I wish we had a camera in here so you could see what we're doing. We're just a bunch of clowns in here.
How much fun is that?
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Tuesday, August 10th. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. How's it going, pal?
Doing quite well. I feel better now. I've made it through the end of a very treacherous day. Now I'm talking some football, talking some podcasting. Just saw a hilarious tweet that put a little smile on my face, so my heart is warm. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I was a little down bad myself. A couple casual beers at High Tops turned into me and the fellas really tying one on. So, I'm coming back from that slowly, but here we are recording a pod. And I got a nice gust of wind from the interview we just recorded with Matt Wood of Dogs by Nature, a guy with a ton of energy.
A lot of gusto. Shout out Gus Edwards. He was firing on all cylinders. He was a dog pound OG through and through. Somebody working over at Dogs by Nature, our SB Nation brethren for the Cleveland Browns. And he agreed to hop on as we're doing that little AFC North whip around and talk a little Brownies football. He had a really good, more of a fan perspective kind of feel and what Cleveland feels like right now and what it's been like, through the years. And that's usually where those conversations end up. So we've talked to guys like Sessler who are very, very different from Matt in terms of the psyche of the Browns fan. But hey, it was a great interview and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was it was a lot of fun, man. Like I said, he's obviously a fan of a rival team. I said this to him, but he had me ready to run through a brick wall at a certain point. But it was
a couple Bob Wileys in.
Yeah, so it's about a half an hour interview. So we're not going to run too long today. Here we've got some other content booked here in the pipeline that we're going to be taking care of, but we did want to quickly touch on the fact that we had Lamar Jackson come to the podium for the first time in over a week.
Lamar spoke to the media, and Jake and I were kind of talking offline. And was like, man, I wonder what they're going to do. I wonder if they're going to have him say like a prepared little, I would never think Lamar would talk for more than like 30 seconds for something prepared. Just be like, hey, we're going to talk to my teammates or something, yada, yada, yada. But hey, it was candid. It was Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson. It was, not a ton of information, nothing crazy. And it felt like the Ravens had him in, like a good headspace. It didn't feel negative or toxic. A lot of it was just, missing his teammates and that kind of way. So they kind of put a boyish smile on and got through it. And, it was definitely felt like it could have gone really sour and it didn't go that way, which was nice. And it's not like there's been any sort of music into our ears and there's never going to be an agreement on a very difficult topic. And for whatever reason, people just choose to see different sides of the story. It is what it is. But, he gets out there, he gets the job done. And hopefully that's something that can start to be put away.
Yeah, I said off the air to you, I didn't think the prepared statement thing was really going to be his style, but it did feel like there was some preparation to it. I think, I don't know if Patrick or somebody sat him down and kind of talked him through what he was going to have to be, what he was going to be hearing from the media, because it did seem like he was pretty prepared to discuss, like you said, a difficult topic and something that we've obviously kind of worked our way through the minefield of on this show a little bit. He went out there, he certainly got, I'd say, grilled about it, but not like it didn't get contentious, like you said, which was nice. I think the fact that some of the questions were coming from Mink, like Mink isn't going to go out there and detonate him. And really, nor are any of these guys. Like they're all like relatively friendly with him at this point, if not just even like more so than that. So yeah, it was, I think he did a nice job, but this question, like it's still just going to be lingering in the air. And like, no matter where you come down on the issue, like he's still going to be getting asked about it. Like he mentioned talking to the team doctors to maybe potentially inform his opinion on whether to get the vaccine a little bit further. Like he's going to continue to get asked about that. And then like after he presumably has them, there's going to be continued questions as to whether
Have you spoken with them? What has there been any sort of gain on that front, Lamar?
Basically, it's
Things
just
like that.
yeah, it's just going to be like, how many different ways can you ask him? Like, have you made up your mind to the fact that you're going to get the vaccine? Which is, I do not envy the job of the reporters that have to ask him that. And I don't know where his head is at, but I don't envy him having to deal with that situation either. But I mean, there is a way to deal with it. That's to get vaccinated, but whatever, his personal choice, I guess.
Exactly. So I mean, I hope that it can be resolved. It just is very tiring. It's very exhausting. It's exhausting to cover it. It's exhausting to think about it. It's exhausting to write about it. And I think that by the time the regular season gets here, there's going to be a lot more going on. But right now, it's kind of like the preseason hasn't started. You've been out. You're going to have to face the media who are just waiting for something of the sort. So we'll see the next time he has media availability. You got to think it's, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, somewhere coming down the pipeline soon. And it's going to be a check-in there, and it is what it is. But it's just unfortunate that it had to go this route as opposed to just being resolved the way that other individuals handled it. But at the same time, you're feeling better than the Vikings are with Kirk Cousins having the facelift of the Vikings. I mean, the man is having them build him a bubble inside of the facility and expand rooms and knock down walls, and then goes up there and says, I'll do whatever it takes. And it's like, you're really going to make us have to talk about this and cover this. So I don't envy Minnesota Vikings reporters or coaches or anyone in that front office right now.
Yeah, Mike Zimmer is just like, the guy just cannot, like, he just can't get, like, he can't catch a break here. Like these guys, and I think they're the most unvaccinated team. These guys are just like making him go insane. Like his face is just getting redder and redder, and he's just like freaking out.
I love Mike Zimmer.
I do too. Yeah, he's great. And like I don't. You took the words right out of my mouth there. Like at least we're not having to deal with the term plexiglass.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So it's not a hard no from Lamar. It seems like it is a hard no from Kirk Cousins, but let's I don't know. I kind of don't want to really hear about like talking with doctors. Like let's just go and do it, and then make your informed decision, and then we'll move on from there.
Go look get a virologist on the Zoom or in the room, and they're pretty busy with things that might be more important than that, but have somebody look them in the eye and make them tell them no, I'm not going to get it. That knows what the hell they're talking about, because I don't. Jake doesn't. We try, but make him be in the room with someone who might actually know what they're talking about.
At a certain point, I just want a definitive answer. And like, obviously he doesn't owe that to me, but like that would be as far as, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, I just want to hear yes or no from some of these guys. And of course, Lamar is one of them. And I would like to hear yes, but if it's going to be no, then like, let's just get this out of the way so we don't have to keep waffling.
So
back
expectations can be set and moved past and get closure on it.
And then maybe put him in a bubble, because like he might be getting this thing again at some point.
IDK. Who could say?
All right. What else we got on training camp?
I was tired today, and I didn't go the last 2 days. It was not a physical practice. I mean, it was a testy practice, but there weren't pads on. So it was that sense. It just feels, I would like to see the energy a little bit higher. I think that Marlon Humphrey brings the energy. I think that Calais Campbell brings the energy. I think that J.K. Dobbins brings the energy. I'm looking for Mark Andrews definitely brings the energy. Deshaun Elliott at times. There's some guys out there, but I want to see them take it up a notch at camp. I want to see them get fired up, more energy, higher level, louder. I feel like they're in a little bit of a lull right now.
What is the missing element to like make that happen, do you think?
Maybe, I mean, it might just be getting in, an actual live bullet, getting that blood in your mouth a little bit. That might be what it's needed, and they're going to have that with the Saints.
Somebody has to get shot, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I almost just made a terrible reference to G Baby, but the Cucumbas had to do it for G Baby.
You're over my head there.
You don't know the Cucumbas? You don't know G-Baby? You don't know Keanu Reeves' greatest role of all time?
What is this, John Wick?
No. Are you going to tell me you haven't seen Hardball?
Keanu Reeves' best role ever, by the way, is in Point Break.
Hardball.
I am an FBI agent, Bodie. You fucked up here, man.
You got to watch Hardball. You got to watch Hardball.
Listen, I'll check it out, but I'm telling you right now, Point Break.
I just ruined the whole movie, so you might as well not even watch it.
Okay. Listen,
I ruined the whole movie.
We'll get past the spoiler statute of limitations, and then you'll just have to incept me to watch it, having not remembered that you spoiled it.
This is prime 2001 Keanu Reeves, like prime 2001 Keanu Reeves. But anyway, it might just be they need to go like get smacked around a little bit, smack around some Saints a little bit, something like that. I don't know what it is. I just want to see the energy a little bit higher right now. Feels like there's been a lot of injuries and guys out, and Zeitler's out, and Hollywood's out, and Bateman's in and out, and Lamar's out, and guys are taking vet days, all this kind of stuff. Feels like they might be just hitting those dog days of summer right now, but I want to see the intensity picked up a little bit here down the home stretch. And hey, maybe it doesn't happen during these open practices. Maybe it happens a couple weeks from now. But I think there's room to take it up a notch at camp, to get a little more testy, to get a little bit more blood. Maybe they're just sick of each other and whatever. They've reached that point. But I'm waiting on some heads to roll.
Okay. Well, is that all we've got?
The biggest takeaway that I have is when Lamar comes back to practice, the ball comes out quicker. That's just what I'll say about the offense.
You did say that on Twitter, which I think is a pretty important thing for, I think, especially like the guys involved in the passes, like the receivers and the defensive backs. Like, feels like maybe talking about like with the receiver, like the ball coming to them before they even get out of breaks. I feel like that's something that you get with a franchise quarterback, not so much with backups. So like getting adjusted to
the speed,
his speed, his quick release, and hopefully getting to the line quicker too.
But that's the biggest thing. I think he was a little rusty today, but looked sharp. So I'll be back out there. I'm doing the live stream, so we don't have to talk about that a ton. But yeah, I mean, offensive line's a little bit concerning right now. I think Stanley comes back. Huge news. We didn't know when the hell Stanley was going to come back. He emerges out there today, which is a godsend because he's the only really talented player on the offensive line. He's the only like blue chipper you've got, and really the only one that's close to that at all. So not having him out there and not knowing and the uncertainty and some things like that, obviously he's not going to be doing, full go maybe until right before the regular season starts. But, it was starting to be like, okay, well, maybe this isn't great. You never know recovering from an injury. So it was just really nice to see him out there. But other than that, preseason, that's what we're pumped up for.
Yep, pretty much. And we're recording an interview germane to that right after this. So running about 40 minutes here. Anything else for the people before we kick it over to Matt?
Nothing. That's all from me. And live streams coming out in the afternoons, articles coming on there. Let's get to it.
Absolutely. It is time. Baltimore Beatdown on YouTube, baltimorebeatdown.com for those articles, and posting all the pods and videos on the articles on the site as well. So be sure to check all that out. Check us out on social media at Podcast Beatdown. You can find me at Jake Luke. That is Louque. You can find Spencer at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4 in the middle. Check us out on Instagram, getting plenty active on there, Baltimore_Beatdown_podcast. And yeah, I think that's all we got. You guys have yourselves a great couple of days. We'll be back in a few here with an interview to preview preseason game number 1. So get excited for that. And depending on how it shakes out, this might be my last appearance on the pod until next week. Because our interview is, we're doing it now. We're probably going to run it later in the week. So until then, I will talk to you guys. Have yourselves a great week/weekend. And we'll see you.
See ya.
Arrivederci. All right. We now welcome on a very special guest. It is one of our SB Nation bros from over at Dogs by Nature. It is the venerable Matt Wood. How's it going, bud?
Good. I don't like all the purple. We got to change that. Just a hideous color. But you know what? I'm in your house.
Yeah, let's get brown on there.
Yeah, exactly. Or orange or whatever it might be. But it's the color of royalty. But thanks for hopping on with us, man. We doing a little bit of a kind of a mini series type thing. We haven't even really put a name to it or anything like that, but just kind of hopping around the AFC North, figuring out what some of the people are doing behind enemy lines, what these teams are up to. So we talked a little bit of Bengals last week. So glad to get you on here. But before we jump into all that, typically we like to start a little chronologically here, get some background on the person we're talking to, how they got into football, what their football life is, and what brought you to, the position where you're talking to two clowns like us on a Monday night.
Oh, wow. Man, I was born in Ohio. I mean, as you can tell here with the Ohio shirt and the Ohio tattoos and everything like that, Ohio kid. And you can't grow up in Ohio and not be a Browns fan. I mean, if you like, Cincinnati, you might as well live in Kentucky. So to hell with that. And
I mean, what even is Skyline chili?
It's trash. That's what it is.
Spaghetti and chili. Yeah.
It's leftover Wendy's cheeseburgers, all right? And the hell with it. It's disgusting. So it's just you grow up being a Browns fan. And honestly, if you're still a Browns fan after, what we've been through, there's no fair weatherness to that. And, with the Ravens and everything like that, hey, whatever. It is what it is. But to get to where I was, I've kicked around. I'm a little bit in sports radio there for a while. And I always love the Browns. I could talk about the Browns all day. So Dogs by Nature was and still is, I think, the best place to go for honest Cleveland. I'll say this, Cleveland's media, sports media has some really good people, but it has some really, really bad ones. And it's tough to get news. And I get it. You're talking about people that went to work to cover a bad football team for years. It's easy to get burnt out, but, be fair about it. And, there's enough to be critical of the Browns about for years without making things up. And you had some people in the media who really just kind of made things up at times, it seemed, and just kind of went overboard. Tony Grossi's one of them. He said he'd retire if the Browns drafted Baker Mayfield. Well, they did, and he didn't.
And now he's tweeting the other day that they need to sign him to a contract extension or something. I saw he got old takes exposed on that. So just that was kind of a funny. Sorry to cut you off, but just a funny little way that the world can come full circle.
No, and I'm glad you updated me. Tony Grossi's had Dogs by Nature's blocked for years, so we have no idea what the hell he's saying, which is fine by us. But no, it's a awesome website. SB Nation does a really good job of actually letting fans kind of control that stuff, and it's fun to be rooting for a good football team. I mean, you Ravens fans, you don't realize how lucky you have it. You guys are in the midst of it usually year in and year out.
Ravens fans can get so spoiled at times. It gets nuts. It gets nuts.
No idea, man. I mean, I've watched every snap of, an 0-16 season. And hell, man, we're a blocked field goal away from being 0-16 back-to-back years. So if you've made it this far, you're in, man. And, it's to be a part of that. It's special though. I mean, honestly, I hate Steeler fans, especially Steeler fans in Ohio. To hell with you, man. To be front runners and stuff like that. It makes my stomach turn. So if you've been through it to this point, you're in. And I couldn't be happier for us Browns fans, man, because it's fun now. And I cannot wait for this season to get started.
It is, and there's definitely something romantic about being in the shit for a while. So you got to have that, but now you're getting some good times. It seems like so.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I like to think of the Browns now. And before we dive into, Josh Allen signs a monster, deal, $258 million, keeping him for quite some time up there in Buffalo. And there's no two more teams that are impacted more right now and in the immediate future than the Browns and the Ravens. So where do you think this deal that Josh Allen struck lands Baker Mayfield, and how can the Browns continue to find value after, paying a quarterback franchise money, which somebody had a take, I can't recall who it was, but they're like, you can debate on whether or not you want to pay Baker Mayfield. It's the best quarterback the Browns have had, and you got to end it. You got to end it. So
low bar, but yeah, you're right. And I think Baker's better than a lot of people give him credit for. He had the phenomenal rookie year, and then he kind of had the rough second year. And when you look at what he had in the second year, it's really easily explainable, but he was the savior, right? And this guy who could move heaven and earth, and you thought he was going to be Patrick Mahomes. Well, he wasn't put in the position. I think the biggest mistake people make all the times when it comes to evaluating a quarterback is where they get put. I mean, I think that has just as much a factor of how good
all players in general. All players in general.
Exactly. And we and it's so quick to point the finger at the court. I will go to my grave thinking Tim Couch could have been a franchise quarterback if he wasn't placed in just the worst situation of any quarterback. You can go back 30 years. I really do think that. But you kind of look at that and, okay, Baker Mayfield wasn't great. He wasn't terrible, and he was good last year. But now all of a sudden you kind of get the rumors of a system quarterback. Baker Mayfield's not going anywhere. Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere. That's just it. So, I mean, a lot of people can kind of get, well, they're going to sign him. They're not going to. They're going to sign him. They will get a deal done at some point in time. It's going to be a good deal. After the Browns contracts with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I don't think the Browns are going to do a stupid contract. People kind of thought the Myles Garrett contract was stupid at the time. Guess what? All of a sudden, every contract that looks bad for a good player is a good contract 2 years later. That's just how it goes. With the more money that comes in, the salaries continue to go. It's just going to keep going up. Now, Baker Mayfield's not going to get Patrick Mahomes money, Aaron Rodgers dollars. He's not going to get that, but he's going to get right around what Josh Allen got, and that's going to be fine just because teams are so good at creating cap space as it comes. So the deal will get done, and to be quite honest with you, as a Browns fan, Baker Mayfield not getting a contract is almost kind of a good thing because nobody seems to relish kind of giving the finger to everyone that doesn't believe in him more than Baker Mayfield. I mean, that dude he'll go out and throw a touchdown and grab his nuts and say, hey, maybe I'm worth a contract. And I love it. So it'll get done at some point in time. It rates a 0 on the fear scale for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's definitely a certainty. I am kind of curious. I wrote down, has there been like a ton of material scuttle as to like whether it's progressing or anything like that? Because here in town, like there's been plenty of that with Lamar Jackson, and it's also been kind of a national thing with like Mike Florio, like talking about him running on asphalt and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously Josh Allen's was kind of a big national storyline as well that kind of just reached its zenith as well. But has there been a lot of like, kind of rumors flying around about what number they're at or kind of anything material in that sense?
Honestly, the only thing that's really come out is that they haven't really talked. And I will give this Browns front office credit. I mean, they really have buttoned up any sort of leaks. Like there wasn't any rumors about a Nick Chubb contract coming. The Kareem Hunt stuff, there wasn't much about that coming out. I mean, they have really, for a front office that was for years, they had an executive using a burner account on Twitter for years. I mean, it was crazy leaky. They don't really give anything out. So yeah, when Baker says, hey, we haven't really talked, they probably haven't. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know the right around the ballpark area, all these contracts are going to be, what was it? Josh Allen's contract got done at like 10 p.m. at night. Like they just had to call him and wake him up and be like, hey, we got you, $250 million. I'm waiting for that phone call for my life, but it'll get done. So yeah, I don't think they've gotten anywhere with it, but
Yeah. So a little bit bigger kind of a meta question here that sort of ties in with that. Like the Browns, they're no stranger to taking headlines, I think. And, sometimes it's not as deserved. I think it is certainly well, deserved these days. And with the recent success, the direction they've headed under the leadership they have there now with Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, we've kind of already touched on this a little bit, but how would you, if you had to use like one word to summarize the psyche of Browns Nation kind of as a whole, the dog pound, what do you think that word would be?
Ecstatic. And if there's a word that's more excitable than that, you can use that one too, because they feel like an actual franchise. I mean, that's like, I'm trying to, I mean, you're right. Every offseason, it was something, and it was something unbelievably stupid. I mean, when you go back and you look at just the bonkers storylines for the Cleveland Browns,
Josh Gordon, Johnny Manziel.
Exact. I mean, Johnny Manziel putting on a wig and going to Vegas ranks in maybe the top 10, maybe. I mean, George Kokinis getting fired is still like a legendary thing of what happened and how he was walked out of the building. Nobody even knows. Nobody even cares anymore. It's just, so to have a quiet offseason where your biggest storyline is locking up some franchise players on really cap-friendly deals moving forward, I'll take it. I mean, I've seen so many talented people just come through the Browns and waste years of their career. Joe Thomas wasted an entire career. When you look back on it, it is heartbreaking what that guy did. I mean, the story where he literally had to introduce himself to a quarterback in the huddle once just shows you what a misservice the Cleveland Browns did to one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play in the NFL. And
10,000 days at the factory of sadness.
Exactly. And so to actually tune into this offseason and you hear the players talking like, hey, we're all business, and to have veterans want to come to the Browns and take less money to come to the Browns. I mean, that's something that, the Steelers have gotten and the Ravens have gotten, the Patriots get, that's something that the Browns have never had. And unbelievably, it's something that's happened this year. And I think it starts really with Barry and Stefanski really just kind of coming in and just righting the ship and doing things right for once. And the Haslams really staying the hell out of the way. That was their big problem for a couple of years. And they've really just kind of taken a step back, hired the right people, and let them do what they do.
Absolutely. And Barry forming an analytics department that is now, second biggest in football. It's right there along with the Ravens, and being able to compete in this AFC North that has been such like a storied division and all that good stuff. So absolutely. And then talking about this offseason, it was a major point of emphasis on that defense. The Browns offense was so efficient last year, had so many different strengths, even without Odell Beckham. And then Barry kind of turns the all-seeing eye to the defense. He ends up bringing in John Johnson. You draft Greg Newsome. You draft Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. You bring in all these different guys. You mix up the defensive line. And, this defense is, on paper, fantastic. Jadeveon Clowney. What will people describe the Browns' defense as when December and January roll around with the direction it's been headed in?
I'll be very cautious, and I'm just going to say improved. Which, again, very low bar. When you look at that Steelers game with Denzel Ward being out with COVID, the Browns are going to have 10 different starters from that game. And Myles Garrett is the only one. Now, that's a hell of a starter to keep, but they're going to go ahead and keep him. And you saw in that game against especially the Chiefs. The Chiefs really just focused their entire offensive line to Garrett and said, we'll live with everything else. And their secondary was just a tire fire. I mean, they really did need to be rebuilt. And the exciting thing is the year before, the Browns offensive line was awful. They had a couple decent players up front, but it was really bad, especially at the tackle position. And the Browns said, all right, if we're going to fix one thing this offseason, it's going to be this offensive line. And they did. They drafted Wills, they signed Conklin, and it became, according to Pro Football Focus, the best offensive line in the NFL. And it is really solid all throughout. And I think this offseason, they said, hey, we're going to fix one thing, and it's going to be the secondary. And they did do that. At least on paper, they went out and did it. And you not only did you sign those guys, but Grant Delpit, who was out last year with an Achilles injury, he's back. Greedy Williams out with a shoulder issue all of last year, pretty much. He's hopefully back. Anytime you have a nerve issue, that's kind of touchy. So and then the Newsome draft pick as well. You're throwing a ton of new bodies at that. So on paper, you're right. It's going to look better. I think the defensive front is thin, but I think they could really be your best up to your pass coverage is your pass rush. And if the early returns are anything on Clowney, so far, so good. So I really do think they're going to be better. I don't think they're going to be like some top 3 elite unit or anything like that. But look, if they could have gotten a stop or two last year against the Chiefs, I think they beat Kansas City in the playoffs. In my heart of hearts, if they could have stopped Chad Henne on 4th down, the way that offense was getting going, I believe the Browns are going to drive down the field and score. But they didn't. So, hey, put that in one hand. So I think it'll be better. And there's a lot of reason for optimism with that.
Yeah, and I think speaking of the offense and kind of, I guess, reversing that question to that side of the ball, like the offense last year was awesome, like really fun to watch. Loved what they were doing in the run game. Nick Chubb resigns to a 3-year contract, and they're just kind of returning all the pieces from this really fun offense in 2020. So for 2021, I'm curious, what is kind of the Q rating right now with Odell Beckham for one thing, and then like him fitting into this offense in 2021, and like just in general, what is like the offense this year have to do to be even better than they were last year? Because I think it's a pretty damn high bar.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. You're going to run into a lot of fans who are like, oh, we should have traded him because the offense got so much better when he got hurt. Oh, now, is that true? Yeah, but you also got to remember that was an offense that had a brand new system, you know, the COVID off season, everything like that. It was going to take some time to get going. Now, I do think there were times early on where Baker kind of tried to force the ball to Odell and it didn't work. But you can't convince me that you take Odell Beckham Jr. off the field and you get better. I just that doesn't make sense. You don't.
The impact that he has opening things up for others,
Exactly.
the way he affects coverage, the way he affects the run game, all that stuff.
That game he had against the Cowboys last year, oh my God, he is going to tear it up this season. And unfortunately, it doesn't work out like that. But I think he's still got it in him.
Yeah, I mean, 3 touchdowns and all of them just electrifying plays. So I think it's just more of a getting used to things, and especially with the offseason that they had, you know, Baker and Odell didn't work out together a lot. So it was going to take some time. And then I just think that's just how it happened. So what do I think? I think Odell's going to have a good year. I really do. And I think the Browns are really, really loaded. Everyone says the best player on offense in camp this year has been Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver out of Michigan, who was just.
We were massive on him in the draft. Massive on him in the draft.
I liken it to Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is one of the highest recruited kids coming out of high school, went to Maryland. No one could throw him the football, goes in the 6th round, goes to the NFL and destroys it, right? Donovan Peoples-Jones, same thing, goes to Michigan. No one can throw him the football. Jim Harbaugh's a moron. And boom, goes to the NFL, able to put it together. He's got all of the traits. So I think he's going to be a factor this year. And so you put him, you got Landry, you got the tight end package, you have the 2 running backs, you have the offensive line. There really is, I mean, no, knock on wood, weakness on this offense. That's why I think a lot of people point the finger at Baker and it's like, well, you can't score 50 points a game, you suck. Well, no, I think it'll be okay. I think Odell's going to bounce back in a big way this year because he's motivated. I guarantee you he's heard everyone say that he doesn't have it and things like that. And I'll tell you this, I think the guy gets a bum rap too. I think, you know, with the hair and the look at me stuff in the pregame, that dude blocks his ass off. He's always happy for his teammates when they score. There's no pouting or anything like that.
Like when he gave Sheehy his cleats last year, like no one was happier than him.
And that's the thing, man. He's a team first guy, and he said it all the time. He's like, look, if I'm run blocking and Nick Chubb's picking up 9 yards a carry, why would we throw the ball? Why would you? And so I think he gets a bum rap sometimes. People think that he's more of a diva than he is. And sometimes the guy gets pissed off. And I'll be real with you. If you saw some of the things that he got asked to do at times, I'd be pissed off too. So at the end of the day, if you're losing and you're Odell Beckham and you're not getting the football, you want to make a difference. We want athletes all the time to be honest. And then sometimes when they are honest, we kill them for it. I got no problems with Odell.
Right. And I think it goes really well with kind of Edgerrin James's Hall of Fame speech. And one of the major points and takeaways for him was, you know, I started with gold teeth and I finished with a gold jacket. So sometimes, you know, just the old judging a book by its cover, all that crap. So definitely hear you on that. And, you know, as you said, the thing I always respond to people like, well, the Browns got better without it. Odell got hurt 2 months into a brand new offense, into a brand new scheme, and they didn't get rolling. So absolutely there. Then just kind of talking about, you know, finish the following sentences. In order for the Browns to feel like they had a successful season in 2021, the Browns will have to blank.
How about win a home playoff game? And I think most Browns fans, myself included, was happy with making the playoffs last year. You go in, you know, increments in the NFL. Teams get better like that. You know, the minor steps of, okay, we're good. We make the playoffs. We win some playoff games. Now you're a Super Bowl contender. Winning in Pittsburgh, the way they won in Pittsburgh was such a surprise. And especially with everything they had with all the COVID stuff like that, just to go in and punch Pittsburgh in the face was awesome.
Just Mike Tyson.
And so if you win a home playoff game, that means your regular season was good enough where you got to host the game. I don't care if it's a wild card game or not. I think if they can win a home playoff game and be in the thick of things, I absolutely think that's I think they're a year ahead last year on their success meter. So I'll go with that, and I'll say, yeah, a home playoff win.
Nice. And I think we've kind of touched on the idea of like having good problems as an NFL fan. And it seems like, Browns fans kind of have some good problems with some of the players that they have in the pipeline that need to be paid. We already touched on Baker. Nick Chubb got paid. Who do you think is ultimately going to need to stay in the picture and get paid whatever big money they're going to get paid? And who feels like more of a luxury on this roster to you currently?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think it'll be one of the wide receivers as a luxury next year. Jarvis Landry gets paid a lot of money. Odell Beckham Jr. gets paid a lot of money. Everyone thinks that it'll be Odell Beckham who'll be out the door. I don't. I think it'll maybe be Landry, which is kind of tough. I was against the Browns trading for Jarvis Landry and then giving him a massive contract. I didn't think, he's a dynamic wide receiver. He was, a quote slot receiver, possession guy, whatever you want to call it. And I just thought, look, you're giving a lot of money for a guy. But if you go back and watch Hard Knocks, Jarvis Landry has been a big reason I talked about that professionalism earlier, about that franchise turning a door. That dude, I was 100% wrong because he has been an absolute leader for the Browns. So I think he's a lot more important than just what he brings you on the field. That being said, if you're successful this year, all of a sudden that success is kind of ingrained into that team. Maybe you can say goodbye to a guy because remember they drafted Anthony Schwartz, a burner out of Auburn this offseason, who I think is going to be a lot of fun for a few plays this year for the Browns. I think they're going to draw some things up for him. As I said, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has a real good shot at being the number 2 wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns next year if he continues to ascend the way he does. And that means you can let a Landry go. Maybe you can trade Odell Beckham. I think one of those guys will be gone next year. I hope I'm wrong because, that's a good problem to have. Wyatt Teller, a fantastic guard for the Browns. But you got to remember, you have Wills at left tackle, on a rookie contract. You paid Conklin a ton of money for a good reason. Batonio's very expensive. Treader's probably out after this year. He's a free agent after this season. You don't want to spend a ton, but that's a lot of money tied up in your offensive line. And if, Clowney has a monster year, like, again, early on, and anytime you talk about Jadeveon Clowney, you got to make sure he didn't get hurt when you started the sentence. If he has a monster year, maybe you keep him long-term. So there's a lot of things up there in the air. Who would I prefer to keep? It would be anybody on the defensive side of the ball because Myles Garrett does need some help on a long-term basis. So if you can find it in the draft, that's great. But the Browns have a lot of weapons on offense. So if you're going to say goodbye to something, because remember, Austin Hooper was he was the highest paid tight end in the NFL for about a hot 15 minutes last year. And then got signed up. And, Njoku will be a free agent after this year. So there's a lot of question marks and there's a lot of money tied up in that offense. So we'll see after the year, but I have to imagine if there's going to be money to be had, it'll be coming from the offense.
Makes a ton of sense. Before we get you out of here, what's going on through preseason? Who can the Browns not lose to afford? Who's making noise? And what are you looking to see before the regular season?
Well, I touched on the Donovan Peoples-Jones note on offense. He continues to make big plays every single day. Now, part of that's because Odell Beckham's not practicing yet. He's doing individual stuff, and they said he could if he wanted to. I'm of the belief I wouldn't play anybody in the preseason. I wouldn't play Baker. I wouldn't play Chubb. I wouldn't play Odell. None of these guys. Wrap them in bubble wrap. Myles Garrett, no, it's not worth it. If you lose game 1 because your guys are getting on the same page, okay, fine. It's better than losing them for the season on a pointless game. On the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned it a little bit. Jadeveon Clowney, according to every single person, has been unblockable. And that says something against the Browns' offensive line, which has been really good. He says, hey, look, he's just as good as Garrett. And look, I know the 0 sacks last year and things like that. I'm of the belief that Jadeveon Clowney has played out of position for a lot of years. What the Houston Texans did, drafting him number 1 and standing him up at outside linebacker and all that stuff, it made no sense to me. But hey, I'm not an NFL executive. And then I think he was really hurt a lot more than people knew last year with Tennessee and even with Seattle a little bit. It just didn't seem to click. If he can stay healthy, guys got talent. And
he had a hernia in Seattle and played through it.
Yeah, and so you kind of add all that up, and then it makes a little sense. Now I know I think Clowney's productions never equaled the hype. I mean, it just hasn't. I'm not making any excuses for that. But if he can give you anything on the other side of Garrett, who I think is going to, I think Myles Garrett, if he would have stayed, if he didn't get COVID last year, he was on pace to win Defensive Player of the Year. He was that destructive every single game. And then when he came back from COVID, he just was not the same player. And he even said, he's like, man, it took me months to get right. And I think if he stays healthy this year, he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. And if you can get some pass rush on the other side of that, all of a sudden that secondary, you could put me at safety and we'll be all right for a little bit, you know? So it'll be interesting to see. He's kind of been the guy that has stood out. The secondary stands out as well. There's been a lot of good early returns on Newsome at corner. So it's fun to see because you don't have to depend on Newsome. That's the thing. The Browns have gotten, I keep saying the Browns have gotten to a point where they don't have to depend on a first round pick to come in and be good or even contribute. And that's how good football franchises operate. The Ravens understand that. You draft a guy not for this season, but it's for the next year, you know, a year on out. And you develop these guys and you get them in your system and they understand things and then they're able to hit the ground running. And honestly, like we talked about there at the start, it doesn't destroy their confidence. You know, you go out there and just get your ass kicked. It's got to do something to you, especially when you talk about a kid who's probably dominated in high school and obviously in college if you're a first round pick. And then to go to the NFL and just get your brains kicked in. You know what? To hell with this. I'm a millionaire. Let's go find some women in a beach and be done with this instead of going and getting your ass kicked on the field. I don't blame them. So it's going to be fun to see, and I couldn't be more excited. The season could kick off today. That game against Kansas City there's going to be way too much stock put in that. If Kansas City comes out and houses the Browns, it's not going to be the roof is falling, but a lot of people will think so. But I mean, it's your first game with a brand new retooled defense. But if they win, hell, let's book them Super Bowl tickets, man. Let's go. So it's you're playing with house money at this point in time if you're the Browns.
For sure, buddy. Well, you're getting me fired up to run through a brick wall here, and you're a fan of a rival team in the division, probably the premier rival team to the Ravens, I would say right now. So really appreciate you coming on, providing all the energy, providing all the great insight. Before we get you out of here, how about you plug yourself, plug your social media, all your stuff to our listeners?
Oh, well, dogs by nature, man. They Chris and the guys. I don't do any writing for the website anymore. I got kids and stuff now. I got too busy. They do it all. They do amazing work there. Even if you don't like the Browns, at least come over there and say, at least the Steelers suck. We all agree on that. So, we can have some fun with that. And you guys do a nice job with it as well. And don't take it too serious either. Man, people get wrapped up. I love football, but man, life's too short for all that. So y'all have fun. And, I'm not saying go Ravens, to hell with that, but I wish you guys.
We all can root for Smash Mouth football together. That's our kumbaya. Go Smash Mouth football.
I'm with you. And hey,
go AFC North
football. I'm about that life. So it'll be a fun year. And man, it needs to. And I tell you what, I cannot wait for Stans to get back in the stadium. I think Cleveland is going to be insane this year. I mean, you want to talk about guys and men and women that have been ready to go to a football game. That place is going to be. I grew up going to the dog pound. My dad took me to the dog pound. It's the first time I ever got to use the F word and the middle finger in front of him. And it was towards John Elway, that son of a bitch.
Hey, so we love to hear that. This is an anti-John Elway podcast.
Yeah, well, John Elway and his stupid-ass horse face can walk on. So, you know what? To hell with him and the Broncos. So, and yeah, give him the bird for me. And I just can't wait for it. Football season needs to start now.
Hell yeah, buddy. Well, it's right around the corner. We wish you all the success other than 2 weeks out of the year. And have yourself a great night and enjoy the first week of preseason coming up here, okay?
Appreciate it, fellas.
All right, Matt.
Thank you.
Gorlami. Gorlami.
Arrivederci. Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.